Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Path to Awakening series with Venerable Khenpo Tenzin. We'll get started with the prayers on page 4 of the Yellow Book. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all mother beings, limitless as space, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering in the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering in the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering in the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Kajula mananje da jonje dan sura dam do lama laba la ye jurzo zo la zan yon den yam zang ala din du don jin de berge la zo da ge lo ju zo ro war zun je lab do so ju lam dan ro war zun je lab do so lan tro wa se war zun je lab do tro ba ye ju zun je war zun je lab do so kang ge ne de wan jong ga ba me ba je ba me me ba me bando me ba ta de do me do ye Trubanye je den ba zo pa san je manan je dan ba de la zon za do zhen zhen za wa la ma je ko zon do je zan lan da ge ju lan be da ge den ba da zon je don ja je mon ro ba zon je la do so Tashi dele der dama friends today last week we discussed about Shamatha, and today we are going to discuss Vipassana. We learned about Shamatha before going over Vipassana. Because this is the order in which we meditate. Before beginning Vipassana, we have to meditate in Shamatha. As I mentioned last week, Shama means peaceful, and Ta means non-distraction. In order to have a peaceful, undistracted mind for Vipassana, we meditate in Shamatha first. It is for improving our Vipassana. as Buddhist practitioners, our main purpose in meditation is for enlightening mind, not just for simple benefits in this life. Of course, it will be of benefit in this life, but this is not the point. And if we are going to improve our Vipassana without Shamatha training, it is very difficult to improve Vipassana suddenly. There are many different Buddhist traditions. Nearly all of them meditate on Vipassana. I myself have paid attention to other Buddhist tradition, Vipassana practice, and have tested these practices a little bit. I don't want to say this is good, this is not good. But today I will introduce Vipassana to you through the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Many Sangha have asked me many times what is Tibetan Buddhist Vipassana and how is it different from other traditions of Vipassana. So this Tibetan tradition Vipassana is actually a pretty higher meditation practice among the meditation practices of the Tibetan tradition. Tibetans have many different kinds of meditation, but among them, Vipassana meditation is a pretty higher meditation. When I introduce these methods, then you listeners should try to meditate on my words. Then you will receive benefit. Actually, all practices are the same in this way, but especially these Vipassana teachings, if you really want to gain the result, you should put it into practice straight away. How to meditate through listening is the teaching is like a river, and you immerse your attention in the flow of the river. But just listening to these Vipassana methods has great merit. And the reason we are going to meditate on them is that they have a great potential to further our progress on the path. In terms of the Buddhism, Burmese, this realization fully arise for practitioners who have attained the first Bhumi, which we call supreme joy. And among the five paths, these realizations fully arise for those who have reached the third path, the path of seeing. But then there are different ways to give rise to realizations. Those on the first bhumi and the third path manifestly arise this experience. Right now, as meditators also experience and give rise to these realizations. But this is only through the power of meditation or the power of some blessings or the power of karma. Only then they arise. That's why we need to accumulate lots of merit. But those who reach the third path and the first bhumi, they give rise to these realizations effortlessly and spontaneously. So the difference is that our realization also differ in their power from their realizations, like the first day crescent moon and full moon are different. This Vipassana is the very height and highest result of the Mahayana tradition, Shamatha practice. So if Shamatha meditation is like a teenager, then Vipassana is like in adult. Anyhow, in Vipassana practice, we start to investigate our rigpa. We start to process our basic nature or fundamental great primordial purity. We will be able to realize the natural mind of emptiness through the practice of Vipassana. And the real luminosity of mind can appear through the practice of Vipassana. And when we focus on external things, we can perceive simplicity through the practice of Vipassana. So, Vipassana is a very powerful meditation. That's why we are discussing it. And if we don't discuss, then it's quite hard to practice. Because practicing Vipassana is like riding in untamed wild horse. Riding, right? Riding. Yes, untamed wild horse. Without training, you will fall off. Which means you will be more scattered. So the main point is this. Oh, riding horse. I always have that problem. So, but now it's clear, right? It's clear. The meaning of the word Vipassana is the V means supreme reality, beyond ordinary appearances. It is supreme appearances, or the nature state of mind, or the nature state of phenomena. Pasana means seeing it. So through Vipassana meditation, we will gain the wisdom arising from meditation, or the knowledge that arises from meditation training, and through the power of this wisdom, we see the nature state of phenomena. And the nature state of phenomena clearly. But in order to maintain this wisdom, or for this wisdom to have its complete potential or power, that depends on shamatha. That's why shamatha is important. So now we all know that before we practice Vipassana, we practice Shamatha, but how to do Shamatha meditation and how to practice Vipassana, these things are also very important to know. For instance, a horse can eat thorns, right? They don't have fingers. I didn't see, and they never use their hooves for eating thorns. They eat the thorns, but the thorns never harm their mouth and tongue, because they know how to eat them. Therefore, they eat the thorn, and it gives them potential benefit. But if we simply hold the thorns, they hurt our hands. That means we don't know how to carefully hold the thorns. And of course, we cannot eat thorns. Similarly, when we start to practice, especially meditate, it is very important to know how to meditate. If we know this, then we can quickly improve our practice and easily gain experience. For example, Gampopa stay with Malarepa very short time, not too long, but he gained the Mahamudra realization. For example, Lord Jigten Sunggung on stay with Pamudra over a pretty short time, but he gained the Mahamudra realization, and then and the result happens very easily if we know how to do meditate, and then we meditate. Only how to do meditate, that's not enough. It's same if you know how to do meditate, how to meditate. If you don't meditate, or you don't know but you are meditate, it's same. Both takes long time. Both actions have great merit. We have to know that we don't waste our time both way. But what we need we are going to become Buddha in one life. So that's why we have to attend these realizations. That's why if we first we know how to, and then we do it, then we get a great result. That's where we call practitioners who accomplish this of a higher capacity. Higher capacity practitioners practice and studied very well in previous lives. That's why right now they have an imprint or the potential of this imprint of making repeated progress. And same for this life. If we practice well, we will have this imprint or potentiality. And that's why we will easily get results. This is very important. If you have practiced Shamatha very well, then when start to practice Vipassana, your Shamatha practice spontaneously supports you, so you don't need to particularly create Shamatha practice at that time. But most of us practice Shamatha and Vipassana together. That's why often we ask Shamatha to support over Vipassana. So Vipassana is the clear and vivid mind. And Shamatha is stability. When we practice Shamatha, most of the time, we single-pointedly focus on an object. But in Vipassana, you can focus on different things in a short period of time. Any kind of things. You can make it the focus of your meditation. But you clearly, purely, and stably focus. In doing this, Shamatha is very helpful. So that's why we have to meditate with both of them together. During Vipassana, we watch while considering how is the essence of this mind. During Shamatha, we don't want to think like that. We just relax on an object. But when we begin Vipassana, we start to examine the essence of this mind, its color, form, or shape, its arising, dwelling, and ceasing, its existence or non-existence. So Vipassana or deep insight meditation has two parts, watching and pointing out. The first has 5 points. Number 1, watching while resting. Number 2, watching while there is movement. Number 3, watching while there are appearances. Number 4, watching whether body and mind are one and the same or different. And number 5, watching calm and movement. First, watching while resting is like this. If you can keep the same physical posture that we discussed during Shamatha, right? If you can't hold the 7-point posture, then if you simply sit comfortably. That's best. You should relax your mind in its natural state. Your mind will then rest in the natural state of mind unmistakably, radiant and vivid. Then we can continue our Vipassana practice by examining, for example, if aside from resting in the natural state, is there anything other than this to be found? We watch whether this mind is something that has in existence inside or outside the body, and what color or form it might have. When you examine in this way, you should examine very clearly. That will help you progress in this practice. Again, you should look and see if it is unidentifiable because it is empty, something non-existent, like a rabbit's horn. Is there a recognition of consciousness that while resting is unidentifiable, clear and lucid, blissful and relaxed, that cannot be described in words? Is the essence of such a resting totally oblivious and unaware of anything without any clarity? Is it a stillness which is vividly awake, naked, and quiet? And you may not find all the answers right way, so you should persevere until true experience arises through the power of a clear meditation that grows from within, not just conceptual thinking. Then you should relax more and watch again. Watch in such a way so as to bring about certainty in your mind stream. In addition, keep your attention vividly present through thought-free, lucid state of Shamatha. In this state, look directly into the attentive mind to see what form it has and in which location does it remain and what support it. What kind of definable identity and appearance does it have? When we practice Vipassana, we gradually examine and investigate these points. In other words, we look at the mind to see if it has a shape that is round, what is called square, or if it is shaped like earth, rocks, mountains, trees. Does it have a shape that look like a human being, an animal, or what? As you practice, you should examine each one until you reach a definite conclusion. Conclusion, right? In the same way, you should examine whether the mind lives in external objects of the world, or beings, or in your body karmic ripening. You should check and see if it does live in this body. Does it remain in a particular location or part of the body, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet? Or does it remain in a pervasive way? You should check. If it remains in a pervasive way, does it dwell in a way that has an inside and outside? Or does it remain in a way that is diffuse? It is diffuse, examining how your mind moves and so forth. You should look and see if your mind in entity, are you clear? Entity that can be identified as empty or as aware. Regarding the empty quality, does it mean being empty like nothingness, or empty like space? Is the lucidly aware quality radiant like the light or the sun and moon, or like the flame of a butter lamp? When you practice Vipassana, you should examine what this lucidity is like. Investigate this until it is settled with complete and conclusive certainty. If you don't investigate yourself deeply, the questions that we discussed, you won't be able to really determine the nature of your mind. So examine these to the very depths. This covers the aspects of the first point, watching while resting. Clear? Now we come to the second point. Watching while there is movement. When we began practicing Vipassana on this point, we relaxed loosely in resting unmistakingly in mind's nature and leave it at that. When a fleeting thought occurs, either because it occurs by itself or you intentionally give rise to one, you should look and see how is the essence of this fleeting thought? In which way does it have color or form? How is it arising, dwelling, and ceasing? You should look at the essence of the movement thought without attaching too much importance to the thought itself. Also, while exploring this point, you should see if any thoughts, emotional defilements, the three poisons, or five afflictive emotions, or the 20 branch afflictive emotions, have either arisen by themselves or you have intentionally giving rise to them. And look at them as before, then see what the difference is between the thought itself and its object. And previous thoughts, when observing these thoughts, check if it is the case that all thoughts are empty, free of conceptual elaboration, and free of arising and ceasing. You should see if these thoughts arise, disappear one by one without a trace. As you look at them, are these arising thoughts self-liberated as naked, clear awareness without being identified as anything? Observe and see. If they are, look and see if there is a difference between that pervasive, naked and clear awareness. As you rest in the naked and clear awareness, that is no seeing while there is movement. When all the thoughts that have appeared are not identified as anything, look whether there still is a thought, like they are beyond identification or not. That first we look and identify a thought, and then we recognize that it has no identity. But then we have identified it as something without identity, and we go beyond that or so while practicing watching while there is movement. You should look whether thoughts become clear awareness and then observing them as empty, clear, empty, clarity. Look whether arising and liberation have become simultaneous through your looking at the essence of the suddenly arising first thought, which is not tainted by anything, which means when you have spontaneous fresh thought arises, you watch its essence as it arises, and then you investigate whether arising and liberation have become simultaneous or not. Look in such a way as bring about in absolute certainty regarding these extraordinary ways of experience. The third point of watching is watching while there are appearances. At this time, you direct your attention towards an appropriate object, like a chair, a water bottle, a wall, a mountain, or a building or tree. Look directly at it or mobile phone. There's also we all look at a mobile phone, right? But how to look? I often said that I already mentioned to you. We all look at mobile phone, but that is not meditation. But if we know how to look at mobile phone, then that will be meditation. So how to look is how important. Mhm. And look directly at it, that object, relax a little, and leave it at that. Again, in the same way, you should look at the objects of the five senses: forms, sounds, scent, taste, and touch. While doing so, you should think, how is their essence, their color, their form, their arising, dwelling, and ceasing, and so on. You should analyze to the limit the base of all phenomena, like sickness, suffering, heat, cold, and so on. You should look how it is. Does the phenomena cease through your looking at it? Or do you yourself and the phenomena appear as something different? Do appearance come into the mind from the outside? Or does the mind grasp at phenomena as external and thinks it is a phenomena? Are mind and phenomena inseparable? Or is there a clearly discernible existence as empty appearances without an object? These are some ways to guide your meditation on this point. Also, you can ask yourself, when in the moment of your looking at it, the object appears vividly clear. Over there, do you then think to yourself, it is over there? There's no reason to think like this. As the mind that observes the object directly and openly, is open and free of any conceptual clinging. Just like a small child look at a temple, has no reason to think of the things that it sees as either one or distinguished from one another. The fourth point of watching is watching whether the body and the mind are one and the same or different. One of the main questions here is, are mind and body distinct from one another? You can reflect on the point that if they were one, then the body which is born and dies, and the mind which is unborn and does not die, cannot be one. Not only that, but the body is matter and the mind is consciousness. These two are not one. Because once the body has died, mind would also die. If the body is pricked by a thorn, the mind would also be pricked by that thorn. Then you can think, if they were different, which would feel that it has been pricked by a thorn, body or mind? If only the body would feel this, then even a corpse would feel it. Corpse, right? Corpse. If only mind would feel it, then even though body and mind were different, mind should feel physical pain as well. Therefore, mind should also experience pain when earth or stone are harmed. However, it doesn't happen that way. Then look carefully and understand that all emerging sensations are like water and waves. And then you should observe. It's clear? Hopefully. The next point in watching is watching calm and movement. For this, you should observe whether calm and movement are one or different. Look into the essence of mind while resting in the state of empty clarity, and allow a single thought to move and look into its essence. Then you should examine whether or not these two are of one essence or different. If they are different, examining how so. Are they different in color from our essence? Are they of the same strength, like two pieces of string? You should examine at this point if the resting is like the ground and the movement like a swaying tree. Or are they like the strands of a rope where there is alternately no resting while moving and no moving while resting? Look and see. Consider that if they are one, how could movement, which shows in all possible forms, and resting, which is naturally quiet. Be one. If they are one, is the way in which they are one, like a change from uh, iron into gold. So they are one way, the way of one having changed into something other, or are they like water mixed with milk, and thus one, or is it rather like water and waves, which are essentially not different, but which appear alternately, so that there is no movement while resting and no resting while moving. The essence of both is equally clear and empty. And living mind in meditation, do thoughts show themselves to be clarity and emptiness? Or does this occur after they have observed? Or is it like this with whatever occurs just as soon as it arises? Whatever appears disappears without a trace. Look and see. This is how to watch calm and movement. While we meditate on insight or Vipassana, mainly we are going to watch our mind. We watch while resting our mind. We watch while there's movement. We watch while there are appearances. All of these are included in Vipassana. We don't pay much attention to external things, though Vipassana is very much related to Shamatha. So when we are in state of lucid and thought-free Shamatha, we look directly into our consciousness mind, conscious mind. It is a wakefulness for which no words surface. It is not a definable entity, but at the same time, it is self-knowing. Our emptiness, that is clear, lucid, and awake. We sustain this without distraction. If we point directly to what is Vipassana, it is clarity. Clarity is like a candlelight. When candlelight starts to remove darkness, then the candlelight does not need to move. Since we light the candle, it almost naturally or spontaneously removes the darkness. But if this candlelight is moved by wind, then it doesn't have much power to remove darkness. Similarly, if we don't have we don't have very stable shamatha, then only just Vipassana by itself cannot remove ignorance. Because our ignorance is a very strong imprint in our mind. It is not as easily removed as darkness is removed by candlelight. During Shamatha practice, we try to block thoughts. This is good because we cannot maintain our stability. We cannot maintain single-pointed concentration if sometimes we do not block thoughts, right? This is because we don't have the realization of Vipassana. Also, we don't have the tools of Vipassana. But of course, there are different practitioners, some who never practiced Shamatha, but suddenly they meditate on Vipassana. I think some of them, it's possible they realize the view of insight meditation. But for the majority, it is quite hard. This is the law of karma or the karmic system. If we do not plant the seed of rice, rice will not grow. It's the same. So mostly we have to block some thoughts. And we try to run away from thoughts. That's why last week in this teaching series, we discussed many methods of Shamatha practice, right? During Vipassana, we don't particularly want to block thoughts. This means we block them. We should block them entirely. But if we block them today, they come back tomorrow. Like the weather conditions in the spring. Yesterday the weather was cloudy. Today the weather is very clear. The morning and afternoon, hour by hour, it changes. Then how can we liberate ourselves through the practice of insight meditation or Vipassana? During this means we should realize the essence of thoughts. Then we can be liberated from them. Anything can appear, but whatever appears, we should watch the essence of it. Until we find the essence, we should investigate. Then when we find it, we should rest on it and elevate our experience, remaining wide open like the sky. As you meditate, expand your mindfulness and remain pervasive like the earth. Steady your attention and remain unshakable like a mountain. Breathing your awareness and remain shining like a flame. Clear your thought free wakefulness and remain lucid like crystal. Unobstructedly, like a cloudless sky, remain in a lucid and intangible openness. Unmoving like the ocean, free of waves. Remain in complete ease, undistractedly by thought, unchanging and brilliant like a flame, undisturbed, disturbed by the wind, remain utterly clear and bright. During Vipassana practice, we don't want to play with thoughts, but we have to watch thoughts. This means any subtle thoughts that arise, we directly catch the essence of this thought. Whether it is a subtle thought or a gross thought, we directly look at the essence of this thought. Sometimes we can look and watch directly the essence of a thought, but immediately our mind will become distracted. That means our shamatha is very weak. Our meditative mind is not stable. If we accomplish shamatha practice well, and then we start to watch the essence of thoughts, our mind is very certain, strong, anchored, and steady. Otherwise, our mind is like a feather blowing by the wind. Do you know? Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. Sometimes it goes straight, sometimes it goes left. And this is not just true for resting when we investigate. We also need stability. First, we cannot watch directly the essence of appearances. So first, we have to watch our own mind. Like mind is mirror, and all appearances are reflections. So first, we should catch our mind. And we meditate with mind. When we watch our mind, and we gain some realization, and we have decided that everything is mind, then we start to focus on appearances. This is very important. At that point, we can quite easily watch essence of appearances. We have to resolve that perceptions are mind. And mind consists of calm and the moved mind. And after investigating the moving and calm mind, we resolve that all appearances are non-arising and non-ceasing. The practices I will describe include these four parts. The first, resolving that thoughts are mind, means letting your mind be evenly composed as aware emptiness. Then from within that state you project a vivid thought, such as anger. Then you look directly into the thoroughly investigate from what kind of substance or base it arises from. Perhaps you will suppose that it arises from this empty and aware mind itself. If so, then you examine whether it is like a child born from its mother or like light shining from the sun? Or is it the mind that becomes the thought? Next, you observe the way in which it remains. Way in which it remains. When it appears in the form of anger, you should examine whether this anger is accompanied by the restriction of intense clinging to this as being real, or whether it is simply an appearance of anger in openness in which there's no identity to take hold of. Finally, you should observe how a thought departs. Is the thought stopped or does it dissolve? If it is stopped, how it is stopped? What circumstance makes it stop? If it dissolves, you should examine whether it dissolves due to some circumstance or whether it dissolves by itself. In the same way, a variety of gross and subtle thoughts should be examined to gain some experience. Through your practice of Vipassana, you may not find that the thoughts arise from a particular location in a particular way, that they dwells in a particular shape or form, or that they depart to a particular place. Nevertheless, your concepts about whether thoughts and mind are different, whether they are related as inside and outside, or as the body and its limbs, and so forth. These concepts must be destroyed. You must experience that various thoughts, in whatever form they arise, are an empty appearance and not a defendable entity. You must recognize that they arise out of yourself and observe into yourself. To successfully practice Vipassana, you must become certain that it is mind that merely appears or is seen as being thoughts. You must resolve that thoughts and mind are indivisible. Take the metaphor of waves on water. The wave is nothing other than the water, and yet it seems as a wave. Although it appears as a wave, it has never changed from being of the nature of water. In the same way, with the various types of thoughts, the very moment they appear, they are nothing other than the aware emptiness of identifiable mind. And since this mind is not confined, it does not appear as a variety of thoughts. During Vipassana practice, we see that even though it appears as thoughts, it has not changed from being the aware emptiness of the mind that is not a definable entity. You must settle this point decisively. In the relative truth, everything's we can do decisively. Yes. Mm. Decisively is verb, right? Adverb. Yeah. I try to say decisively, but I said deceivably. Uh, yes, thank you. Decisively, please change your ear. uh, uh, where's that? You must settle this point decisively, right? And then you must gain the experience of certainty in the fact that the various types of thoughts are mind. Similarly, give rise to a happy or sad thought and investigate whether there is any difference in their identity. In this way, you can become certain about the nature of opposing types of thoughts. Now, how do we resolve that perceptions are mind through the practice of Vipassana? Sometimes it's called Vipassana, sometimes Vipassana. It's same, right? It's just pronunciation. From within the state of aware and empty mind, we allow the I just still think on my biggest mistake. Do you remember yet? Oh, really? It's very good. You suddenly say goodbye. Where is that thought? We are not deceived, but my tongue decisive, right? Okay. Then when we investigate its arrival, remaining, and departure, then we investigate whether the visual, it's quite a visual perception is different from or identical to mind. It's clear? If it is different, are they across from each other? Cross each other? One inside the other or one above the other? Then if that is the case, we ask whether they exist as separate entities that can stand alone, or is it merely an instant of the mind seeing as a visual perception? If we conclude that the visual perception is identical with mind, we then ask, are they identical in that it is the mind that turns into the visual perception? Or are they identical in that it is the visual perception that becomes mind? When we practice Vipassana, we investigate in this way to gain personal experience. No matter what visual perception you see, you must become certain that it is merely the mind's perceiving quality. No matter which of the many types of visual forms you see, you must personally experience that it has no definable identity, but it is a perceived emptiness. Since mind is expressive power is unconfined, you must recognize that it merely appears as visual forms and so forth. Do not keep visual perception and mind separate, as outside and inside, settled decisively that perception and mind are indivisible. We should see the various visual forms that may appear externally to be in a dream as though they are nothing other than the dreaming mind. So the dream forms and the dreaming mind are indivisible. The many different types of things that are presently experienced due to objects appearing through the power of shared karma are like, for example, a clear mirror that is only perceived to be blue when meeting with the circumstance of a blue object. In fact, that mirror has not turned into anything besides its identity of being a clear mirror. Likewise, as long as the unconfined mind has not been purified of karma, it appears in various ways when meeting with this circumstance of different types of objects. In fact, the mind has not turned into anything other than mind itself. It's important, right? Having resolved this, you must gain the experience of certainty through the practice of Vipassana in the fact that the various traps of perceptions are mind. In order to gain this certainty, investigate the opposing perceptions of beautiful and ugly things. Also examining sounds, smells, and textures. Make sure you gain certainty through your practice. Usually, to begin practice, you let your mind be serenely calm in that state of our emptiness. And when your mind starts to move, then you start to investigate by looking directly into it. So while in the state of serene claim, allow to vividly stare. Then investigate it by directly looking into it. Here I just mentioned, let your mind be serenely calm in the state of awareness emptiness. And then I said investigate. So these two seems to be pretty opposite. Especially if we are less experienced in shamatha, then when I say investigate, we suddenly think, oh, this is not a meditation. But we have to know this particular or special instruction method. It is actually the reality true way to find the natural state of mind. Because right now, whatever appears to us, they are naturally in emptiness. But we see colors, forms, shapes, and so on. So if we do not investigate and just listen to the instructions, it sounds opposite. But when we investigate, then it is very interconnected or interdependent. And the reason for this is emptiness. Objects appear because of emptiness. And because they are appear, then they are emptiness. Since we have the perception that appearances and emptiness are opposite, that movement and calm are opposite, that means we have dualistic perception. Very deep dualistic perception. And if we have this dualistic perception, then it is very hard to see that the movement and calm are the same. We will not be able to realize it. If we have a little understanding, the emptiness and the appearances are inner interdependence, then this movement and calm don't exist separately. They are all related in the mind. And the mind is beyond one and many. And then we can relax in natural awareness, the natural emptiness of clarity. This mind was not produced from any case or conditions. It did not arising from any base, not in any way whatsoever. Rather, it is rootless since the beginning. Presently, it does not remain in any shape or form at all, but it is unidentifiable. And the end, without being stopped by anyone, it is self-dissolving, self-clearing, and self-liberated. You must experience the actual mode of this method, a self-knowing emptiness that from the very first cannot be pinpointed as arising, dwelling, and ceasing. And having done so, you must resolve that this mind, however it might presently appear, cannot be improved by anything good or made worse by anything bad. As this is so, resolve that it is a self-clearing, self-knowing, self-liberated state that does not need to be found, turned, or corrected. When you are examining and observing as you sit in meditation posture, resting with the empty and aware mind, all these steps of Vipassana investigation and analysis are experienced through the Vipassana insight. On the other hand, if the examinations are made with an attitude of conceptual labeling, it is possible to gain a general idea, but not real experience. In brief, we have to recognize innate mind essence, innate thinking, and innate perception. So, to recognize them, we must practice knowing the undistracted, ordinary mind. Ordinary mind simply means your mind's natural state. When you try to correct it by judging, accepting, or rejecting, it will no longer be your ordinary mind. Therefore, undistractedly maintain the natural state of your mind with a natural aware presence. No matter how it is or what is perceived or felt. This is simply called meditating. It is explained in this way, while there isn't even as much as in atom to cultivate by meditating. You shouldn't be distracted for an instant. To put it another way, undistracted ordinary mind means to keep the way your mind is naturally, without being distracted. And then during our meditation, whether it's Vipassana or the union of Shamatha and Vipassana or non-meditation practice, there are hindrances and sad tracks. So we have to know them. Because if we do not cut them, then our meditation cannot improve. And sometimes it's possible that they will lead us in the wrong direction. That's why, especially for people of little learning, who have only spent a short time following their master, there is a great risk of getting involved in sad tracks and straying and hindrances due to intellectual understanding and meditative moods. This is not just something I saying, right? Really, in the meditation instructions, it says exactly this. But don't be upset and think, oh, I did not learn too much. I did not follow gurus a long time, so I cannot practice correctly. We all have this opportunity. And after knowing this, then we can progress. The strayings are like this. For example, one does not realize the unity of emptiness and appearances. One just thinks that emptiness means that absolutely nothing exists. And because of this nihilistic perspective, one doesn't care about cause and effect. Then second straying is that one believes that the meditation training and its result are separate. That one practices no, but again the fruition at later time. The third straying is with regard to the path, which means one doesn't understand the meditation and the object of meditation both within our mind, like Vipassana and ordinary mind. But one hopes for something superior beyond their practice, or to meditate while adding something better. Adding something better. Fourth straying is to regard the afflictive emotion and the meditation as separate. So, to use the training as remedy against the emotion. Whenever a thought moves or when encountering a difficult situation, the temporary straying is to believe that one can only be relaxed in meditation after the difficulty has been overcome. There are also many other kinds of strayings. Then there are set tracks. These are also important to know. Generally speaking, while continue the training, you will encounter many different meditation moods of bliss, clarity, and non-thought. In particular, practitioners who have excellent channels, energies, and essence, or devote themselves vigorously to the practice without being interrupted by laziness and distractions, will have intense and full meditative experience. Those who practice while intermittently their practice with other activities will only encounter training bits of such meditative states. Regardless, the bliss experience can be of many different types. This includes your body feeling permeated by bliss. Even heat and cold feel pleasant. Or you do not notice whether or not you have a body. You feel joyful that you want to break out into laughter. Laughter, right? You are delighted and overjoyed, free and easy, or you do not notice whether it is day or night. The clarity experience can be of various kinds. They include having a lucid state of mind or perceptions becoming crystal clear, seeing close and distant things even at night, seeing displays of luminosity, having the feeling of knowing other people's mind, and so forth. The experience of non-thoughts also has a variety of types, these including seeing the various signs of empty forms, having the feeling that everything is empty, seeing that perceptions are insubstantial and devoid of self-nature, seeing oneself and perceptions as empty, and feeling certain of emptiness, and so forth. Whether it is in one of these three meditative moods of bliss, clarity, and non-thought, in combination, or a particular or a part of any of them, you might cling to this meditative experience as being primary, and train in a way that imprisoned, 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 right? By them, by being happy when they come and unhappy when they do not. If such is the case, bliss will cause rebirth and the desire realm, clarity in the form realms, and the non-thought in the formless realm. So three realms. First, you should know that the majority of practitioners have to diligently learn this practice. The minority of practitioners without learning in this life can meditate and accomplish Vipassana from being introduced to the ordinary mind by wonderful master or gurus, and then sustaining it. But these practitioners are very few in number. Actually, knowing which of these you are depends on oneself. If you do not deceive yourself through your pride, and you think you need to learn because you watch your mind, even though you cannot meditate on the ordinary mind for 30 minutes, then you should say to yourself, I'm going to pay attention to learn. Learning means you listen more and more diligently reflect and meditate. And mainly we have to meditate through this ordinary mind. And we investigate ordinary mind. If we do this, then we will gain great experience. That means one day the time will come. When you feel you are transcending dualistic mind, the actual transcending into non-arising openness. So transcending means you decide without a doubt that your ordinary mind is the natural state of mind. And you can experience that. And if you do that, then you can meditate, and mainly meditation and post in meditation day and night. You will gain a great result. So this is the main result of our Vipassana practice. In the 37 practices of Bodhisattva's way of life, it says disturbing emotions are destroyed by insight grounded and calm abiding. Knowing these cultivate meditative concentration that purely transcends the four formless observations. This is the way of Bodhisattva. Way of the Bodhisattva. So, Shamatha is the ground of Vipassana. As I mentioned earlier, because mainly Shamatha means stability, Vipassana means clarity, and whether clarity naturally, spontaneously arises or not is related to how much stable your mind is. If your mind is like a monkey mind, then your clarity cannot appear as luminosity. This means luminosity cannot appear from your mind. If clarity appears from your mind without stability, then we have already achieved luminosity, our mind, because since beginningless time, we had countless thoughts. And thoughts are always the opposite of stability. That means they are thought means movement, right? So, whenever we practice, the ground is very important. To attain omniscience, Vipassana is very important. To attain Vipassana, Shamatha is very important. To accomplish Shamatha, the outer and the inner preliminary practices are important. Our human nature is always focused on the fruit and the great result. We don't care about the cause of this result. But sometimes, whether we like to take care of the cause of a great result or not, sometimes we have no freedom. We have to do that. For example, we plant a tree. Actually, we expect the fruit or the flowers of this tree. But whether we like it or not, we have to take care of the tree. We have to water it a lot. We have to buy some good dirt to protect that tree. And we have to take care of that tree very well. But where we fall to pay attention is about the cause of the fruition of Dharma. For instance, if we are going to accomplish Shamatha authentically, then we have to practice the preliminaries. Then in order to accomplish Vipassana, we have to make more diligent effort on Shamatha. And if we are going to achieve the view of Mahamudara, then Vipassana is extremely important. These practices are interdependent with each other, and the fruitions only ripen through the practices of their ground. In brief, we are going to liberate ourselves from ordinary perception. The reason we liberate ourselves from it is ordinary perception creates suffering. When we are suffering, then we cannot accept the feeling of suffering. Physically pain and emotional distress. So we are going to liberate from there. So the final goal of liberation is realizing the natural state of emptiness or intrinsic awareness. But we cannot achieve that suddenly without grounded practice. So then we step by step practice in a grounded way. And then some special wisdom arises, with which we can see or watch our natural state of mind. How we watch is like when you look into the middle of the sky, fixed concepts, fixed concepts of center and boundary well cease. Likewise, when mind looks into mind, thoughts cease, and you see the nature of mind. If we practice in this way, then these thoughts arising in the mind subside. They spontaneously subside when mind sees itself. Then they realize that all the nature of phenomena neither come nor go. Just like space transcends colors and forms, it is changeless and not tinted, black or white. So, to our own mind is beyond color and form, unsustained by the light and dark phenomena of good and bad. If we experience this, then we can spontaneously be at ease, in bliss, lucidity, and tranquility. And then as we practice Vipassana more, we come to develop strength by the utilizing conducts. There are 7 parts of this. They are the time for utilizing and the conducts. Utilizing thoughts, utilizing emotions, utilizing gods and demons, utilizing suffering, utilizing sickness, and utilizing the process of dying. Let's begin with the time for utilizing and the conducts. After you have had the realization of recognizing the meditation state, you should utilize these conduct when you eagerly long for the things of this life. When you meet with severe difficulties, or there are latent thoughts, the nature of which you do not recognize. Basically, it is meant for whenever you entertain a worried type of clinging, that makes it hard to continue yourself, continue your spiritual practice naturally. This conduct is also for being in retreat. When your meditation training has become steadfast, applying it to stabilize and enhance your practice when you engage the various types of conduct and when you encounter the difficulties and worries that I have just mentioned. Second, utilizing thoughts. When you begin to worry about various good and bad thoughts arising, recognize the thought and sustain unfabricated natural needs in whatever arises. This does not mean that you should concentrate in an attempt not to think the thought while using original wakefulness as the remedy. It also does not mean that you should try to analyze the thought's identity to establish its lack of a real nature. Nor does it mean that you should try to pursue the thought while maintaining mindfulness. What it means is this: recognize the thought, recognize the thought's nature, and simply make the essence of simply make that the essence of your meditation training. No matter how it is, do not regard the thought as a false. False, right? Do not deliberately try to suppress it. Do not get involved in it. Rather, without trying to change it, simply suspend it in a way that is naked and clear, relaxed, spacious, and free. In this way, the arising of any thought does not need to be confirmed or denied, nor rejected, adjusted, or corrected. But it vividly becomes the meditation training itself. This is known as utilizing thoughts. Third, utilizing emotions. When you feel in emotion such as any of the 5 types, attachment, anger, dullness, pride, or envy, simply recognize it. Do not attempt to suppress it. Do not indulge in it. Do not mentally try to alert it. This means don't identify if something substantial. Just acknowledge it, that's all. Suspend the emotion itself in a way that is lucidly present and with a spacious openness. From time to time, try to create a more intense emotion by bringing to mind something even more, how to read this? Provocative. Then the things that have already occurred to you, such as the objects of attachment or anger, whatever they may be, outer mature things or sentient beings. Once the emotion is created, continue the practice as before, suspending the emotion in a way that is lucidly present and with a spacious openness. Concerning dullness, recognize the attitude of dozing off into sleep. When you are about fall asleep, try to mentally alert it, sustaining sustain the state of simply being that. This will become a way to let sleep down as luminosity. Continue as I have described until this is mastered. Then fourth, utilizing gods and demons. When when you are full of dread and terror, terror, right? Terror caused by the magical display of gods and demons, or such things, recognize the fearful thought. Neither suppress nor indulge it, or rather than try to correct it. Train in simply being in that fearful thoughts in a way that is clear, naked, awake. By doing so, the thought is experienced as the meditation training. If the magical display subsides, imagining in even more terrifying and mind-blowing magical display unfolds. Increase the fear even further and continue the practice as before. Fifth, utilizing the suffering. When you see in general that samsara is painful, or encounter a particular sentient being who is suffering, to feel both loving kindness and love for that one being as exemplified thereby for all sentient beings. It's important without try to mentally alert it. Suspend the feeling of loving kindness in a lucid state of being awake, while not losing the continuity of that experience. Generate loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta for sentient beings and make aspirations. Sixth, utilizing sickness. When you have sickness from a disease, don't worry about its particular cause, circumstance, and so on. Do not get involved in suppressing or encouraging it. Use the acute feeling of aches and pains as the very substance of the training, and without trying to alert it. Suspended it in being vividly present. By continuing in this way, you find progress in that pain becomes the meditation training without having to be rejected. Until the sickness subsides, practice as I have described. Moreover, investigate the ego clinging with the one who feels sick, the one who hurts, and the one who experiences, and suspend it without artifice in the state that it is free from any definable identity. Practitioners of equal tests may hold that one should not give up medical treatment. Here, in this context, it is more a matter of using your sickness for a spiritual training, rather than foolishly assuming that it does not matter whether or not the physical supports for attaining enlightenment does. Seventh, utilizing process of drying. During the drying process, our inner elements dissolve, like for example, our breath dissolves into the air. At that time, many fears and suffering can arise. The conduct is not flow them, but focus on the dissolution process. As you do this, luminosity will arise. If you are an accomplished practitioner, then you have already experienced luminosity and you can dissolve your own experience of luminosity into the luminosity that arises like water pouring into water, or like space dissolving into space. If as a practitioner your experience is less and you cannot accomplish this, still your practice of this conduct will benefit. You are allowed in the Pardo to choose your next rebirth. In brief, Vipassana is the essential all higher forms of meditations. So we are going to develop this meditation through the power of meditation wisdom. To grow meditation wisdom, we have to apply the wisdom of listening and wisdom reflecting. So today we discussed Vipassana. Hopefully, now we will stop here. Hopefully, you will understand clearly. Special hope is you can practice Vipassana. As today we listen these instructions. Only one person practice very well, then our teaching has benefit, our discussing has benefit. So, of course, many Arya Sangha practice on that, then this merit is endless. This benefit is inconceivable. So let us practice as much as possible. Of course, we all busy from different things, and I tried to use many new vocabularies, because if I use only one words often, maybe you will boring, sleeping, forgetting. So that's why I tried to use more new vocabularies for be alert, but sometimes my pronunciation is very stranger, so you can meditate only my mistakes. So this is your great object of meditation. And of course, if I totally say some mistakes, then I deeply sorry. And now we are going to dedicate. Please generate bodhicitta deeply. Chancho sencho renpo je ma je ba nam je 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 ba nyam ba me ba yang gong de be wa yo. Oh yeah, in English, yeah, 30, page 30.
Page 30 in the yellow book. May bodhicitta, the precious and supreme mind, arise in whom it has not yet arisen. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher.
Thank you very much.